All right, guys, 13 income producing properties hit the South Florida market today. Let's check them out and see how good of an investment they could be. All right, first things first, that being said, we are going to take a look at where the interest rates are today. And to do that, we are going to go over to the Federal Reserve's 30-year fixed rate mortgage average. Okay, you could look it up as Fred Mortgage 30 US. And you can see here, guys, we were on this nice little dip here. And then the Iran thing started, it kind of shot up, then it went down, and then this last week it went up. Tomorrow we get brand new rates. So today we will still be using the 6.3% interest rate because that was the average for the last week as of last week's report. Okay. With that being said, remember higher interest rates are good for buyers in terms that you could negotiate better with the seller because higher interest rates for buyers means less demand on sellers, right? Less demand. And less demand for sellers means that they have to drop their price. There's less competition for you. So yes, it sucks because you're going to be able to afford less with whatever pre-approval you might have. But as long as you're shopping, I would say smart, and you're giving yourself a little bit of room there, you're not going to see yourself priced out. Okay. And again, you're looking for cash flowing property, right? You're looking for cash flowing property. And the deal here is the lower you can get that price, the more this property is going to be able to cash flow. All right. So with that being said, another thing that we're going to look at, and we're going to use this as another lever in negotiation, is going to be the actual market itself. And you can see here that in the last week, 2,079 homes hit the market. And in the same amount of time, 2,027 homes saw a price decrease. Guys, that's basically a 1-to-1 ratio. Amount of houses coming onto the market and amount of houses seeing a price decrease. And what that means for you is that basically the chances of a house that comes onto the market today having a price decrease is basically almost guaranteed, right? So unless the property is super cash flowing and all of a sudden a lot of people are able to find it on the MLS and jump on top of it, you're not going to have that much competition, which again helps you. If you could show this information, if the listing agent's like, why should I lower the price? You could show them this, be like, dude, listen, man, like, let's just make a deal now. Show this information to your seller. Let's just make a deal now. Why make a deal now instead of if you can make it, in 2 weeks, and maybe in 2 weeks the interest rates go up and I'm not able to offer him the same amount of money as I am today, right? So ask them these questions, use all of this information as leverage to get yourself the best deal possible. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at the 13 properties that hit the market today, and let's start analyzing them. We're going to go here. We're going to sort them by price per square foot, starting with the most expensive. And guys, I'm excited today. There are actually no houses in the $600 per square foot range. Usually when you have that many, there's a good amount here. So that being said, most houses that make sense are underneath the $400 per square foot threshold. So there's still a number of houses here, but realtors make mistakes all the time. And so maybe there's a mistake here with one of these per square footage. So we're going to look at every single property, make sure that we leave no stone unturned, starting with this one, 1.5 mil, 1.59 mil. Okay, they're currently paying $9,189 a year in taxes. Again, the interest rate that we're using today is 6.3%. All right, and square feet wise, this property is pretty big. I mean, it's not huge, but it's 2735 square feet. Okay, and let's see, they don't tell us how much the rents are. They don't. But it's in flood zone X, which is not bad. It's the best kind of flood zone you could be in down here. And let's look at this. This actually looks like a single family home. So I'm a little concerned right off the bat. But on the inside, the property looks gorgeous. It does have this side little door here, which maybe there's a mother-in-law suite. Okay. So the question is it a single family home that they're marketing as a duplex? Let's check it out. Excuse me. So no, it's actually zoned multifamily, and it's 2 units, 6 bedrooms and 4 baths. So it's got to be a 232s. And yeah, that's the case. Discover this beautiful duplex in the heart of Coral Gables, filled with natural light, gorgeous living space. Each unit offers a 3-2. Okay, so we know that we're on the better side of we're on Coral Gables, which is a great community. All right, now they don't tell us how much you're collecting in rents. They say, as a matter of fact, that they say that one of them is on a month-to-month and the other one is vacant. So basically, you're going to be able to take over and you're not going to have tenants very soon. And so what rents do you think that we could actually get here, right? So right off the bat, they're telling us basically 1.59 million. It's a duplex. It's in Miami-Dade. They don't tell us how much you're collecting in rent, so we don't know how much the property could really make in return on investments, right? So we're gonna have to say, all right, a 3-2 in Miami-Dade. The median 3-2 goes for about 3,000. The most expensive 3-2 I was able to find in for multifamily residential is 4,750. But again, this is something like next to the water where you have like access to a boat in your backyard. I don't think this property quite gets that, but being in Coral Gables and looking pretty nice, this house probably does go for around, I would say like 4,250, right, each. And if it goes for 4,250, guys, that means that the total rent income you could expect from this property is about $8,500 a month, okay? And that, if you follow the 1% rule, right, then this would support a price of $850,000. But instead, this guy's asking for $1.6 million, right? Which just doesn't really make sense. It wouldn't even, if you're using a DSCR loan to buy this, it wouldn't even pay for your mortgage, right? So he's making up for the extra price because it's in a great location, okay? And it could be in a great location, but the amount of money that he wants for it just doesn't make sense for what the rents could be. And again, we're already saying $4,250 for a 3-2, all right? That's pretty freaking expensive, all right? So I didn't see that this guy was in any kind of distress here in the folio number, right? You do see here that he did put in some work back in 2021, but that's about it, guys. And with that being said, if that's the best rent that you could get in that area, the return right now would just be 800. Sorry about that. It would be a 7.4%. Okay. But if we are actually able to decrease the price at least 10% here, which would be $160,000, then that means that the price would drop to 143. So $1.43 million. And if you could negotiate that, then that means that the price that or the best return on investment that this property could give you is going to be 8.5%. And that's, again, negotiating $160,000 off the price. So even if you got these rents, and even if you could negotiate $160,000 off the rent, you're still making less than the S&P 500. So why go through all this trouble if you could just put your money in a stock and just sit back, relax, and make more money than this, right? Especially right now, the S&P is kicking off. So there's no reason to look at properties like this. So for that reason, maybe unless you're going to be looking for something in Coral Gables and you want to live somewhere like this, and you want to have somebody help pay your mortgage, that's the only way that this property could make sense. As an investment property, I would stay clear of this. Okay, next up, we have a $1 million duplex in Miami-Dade. Okay, so they're paying $10,066 a month in rent. Sorry, in taxes, guys, in taxes. And square feet wise, the property has 1,881 square feet. Now in rents, they're collecting $6,750. Whoops, a little bit too much there. And now it's in flood zone AE, so that means that they're going to be paying a little bit more in insurance for this property. Let's see. Let's look at the quality of the property, guys. And remember, just 1% rule. What we're looking for here in rents is 1% of 1 million. So it's $10,000 a month. Right now, he's saying that he's only collecting $6,750. So that for us doesn't really quite vibe. These pictures are old. These pictures look old too, but the property doesn't look, actually, yes, it does. It looks weird. Is that TV hanging from those cables? So yeah, this is the most interesting kind of like remodel that I've seen. The pictures don't help. The pictures are terrible. What is going on here? So is this like a half remodeled home? I don't get it. Let's take a look at the listing itself. Excellent opportunity to own the spacious 6-bedroom, 4-bath corner lot duplex. The property consists of 2 3-2s. Okay, and they say that the most they could get for rents, they estimate, is $67.50 because it's actually vacant. Let's make sure that it's an actual multifamily home. It is. And yeah, so it should be like it says 6-bedroom, 3 baths. So a 3-2 maybe and a 3-1. But if it's just like that they added another bathroom, maybe they did. All right. Now let's double check this, guys, because again, they're selling it for $1 million. Sorry, 1 mil. It's a duplex. It's in Miami-Dade. Now, how much do you think that we could get for rents here? All right, a 3-2 normally rents out for about $3,000. They're basically saying that this 3-2 is going to be renting out for about $33.25, right? $33.25 and $33.25 gives you the 67, or no, they're saying 75. That's basically what they say that they could get, right? For each one of the 3-2s, $33.75. And now in Miami-Dade, right? And you're saying that they are in intersection of minutes away from, okay. So maybe for the area, they could get this, right? You might be able to get this in this area. So I'm not going to say this is not the case, but it does look like it needs work, all right? This property does look like it needs work. Otherwise, they would have rented it out themselves. You guys can see right here, like there's like, I don't think that's a piece of art. That looks like they took off like walls or something. And I don't know if that's, it just looks very weird. It looks very weird. So for all this, I would say we could probably negotiate a good price here. Because if that's all you could get in rent, $6,750, then the return on investment that this property could provide is just 9.8%. Again, below the S&P, and it wouldn't really make sense. Now, I don't think that you could really increase the rents much here, okay? So I think that this is pretty much the max that you could get for this property. I don't think that he's maybe in some sort of distress. They don't really tell us much, and the county records, the folio number doesn't give us more information. But I think that a realistic price drop here, I think that if you offered this guy 900K, you'd be, closing somewhere around there. If you offered him cash, 900K, you'd be able to do that. And then this property could give you a return of 11.8%. Okay, but you have to drop the price 100K, which could be reasonable given the weird condition that the property seems to be in. Again, I don't know if that's like some sort of art or what the heck is going on there, but okay. So that being said, this property is at best for me like a D, but it could possibly cash flow, right? It could cash flow, and you'd be really close to getting a loan on this easily because it's almost at 125% of DSCR. So with that reason, we're going to go ahead and we're going to discard this property and keep looking. All right. Next up, we are in a fourplex in Broward County. The price of this fourplex is $1.195 million. Taxes are paying $14,331 a year in taxes. Square feet, 2,340 square feet. All right, that means that, okay, they don't tell us how much the rents are, so we're going to look at the quality of the property here. And it looks okay. I like that they put a lot of mulch. I like that there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there 5 meters here? 5 electric meters? That's really cool. All right. So 1 meter for each one of the units, and then maybe another meter for the washer dryer room. Maybe. Let's take a look at the guts of this deal, see what we can figure out here. But so far, this looks interesting. Amazing location in one of the nicest, cleanest parts of Sailboat Bend. All right. And yeah, this is in Broward County. All right. What is the unit mix? So it's a 2-1, a 2-1, a 2-1, and a 1-1. Okay. Now, they don't tell us how big they are. Okay. And there's not a lot of pictures of the inside, so we just have to guess what it looks like. But the outside looks well maintained. And usually if the outside looks well maintained, it could be well maintained on the inside. Let's see what he says. This property, yeah, he says the property is clean, neat, organized, and very well maintained. Approximately 3-mile drive to the beach. Very safe area. Close proximity to new police headquarters. Property also presents a strong upside for short-term Airbnb. Desirable location. High demand. Private fence. Da 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 da. Okay, so 3 2-1s and 1-1-1, guys. All right. Well, let's look at the Broward County median rents because we don't have an idea of what they could go for. Let's just do the medians. All right. So that means $19.60 a piece. And then that 1-1, $1,600. Okay. So I think that this property, 1.19, well, 1.2 mil, 1.2 mil fourplex in Broward County. It's probably collecting somewhere close to $7,480, $7,500 a month. All right. And that means that the return on investment this property could give you is going to be around 8%. Okay. Which is not good. It's less than the S&P. Now, you know, what could you charge more for the rents? Maybe, but we're not really sure because we don't know what the actual on the inside the property looks like. I mean, on the outside, it looks pretty much mid. It looks median. It doesn't look like outstanding. The color's kind of weird, right? But yeah, so I would say that's maximum rent right there, 7,480 until we get more proof that, you know, they could be better. Doesn't look like he's in distress, this owner here. Let's take a double, let's check twice at this folio number. Yeah, he doesn't owe back taxes or anything right now. At least it doesn't report it. So with that being said, what's a realistic price drop that we could expect this guy to give us? And so let's say he gives you 10% and you're knocking off 1.2, right? So let's say you end up like at 175, 1075. Where does that take you? You know, well, it increases just a little bit. At that point, a bank would just lend you money on it if you could prove that you could get these rents, okay? And that's dropping it 120 grand. And that means that the best returns here are going to be a 9.2%, guys. So you go from an 8% to a 9.2%. For me, it's not worth it. So we're going to go ahead and discard this property too. Next up. Okay, next up you have this $699,000 income multi. I've never seen that. That's interesting. Okay, we'll figure out what it is right now. But apparently they're paying more than what it costs in taxes every year. Clearly somebody didn't input this information correctly. Square feet only 1,560, but it is flood zone X. Now let's take a look at the picture of the property. This looks like a single family home and there's only 2 pictures. Thanks. Let's take a look at the folio number. So no, it is zone multifamily. They haven't paid 2025 year's taxes. So that's interesting. It's 2 units, 4-bedroom, 2 baths. So there's got to be 2 2-1s on the property. And yep, there's 2 2-1s. Okay. Exceptional multifamily opportunity featuring 2 fully independent 2-bedroom, 1 baths, each with private entrance, laundry area, blah, 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 blah. All right. And we're in Miami-Dade. The property looks pretty freaking new. It looks really nice. It's a shame that there's only 2 pictures here. But if there are 2 1s and it's Miami-Dade, it looks a little bit above median kind of quality, right? So we could expect that the rents for this property are going to be somewhere, let's see, for a 2-1, maybe like $2,500, $2,600. And if that's the case, then for this $699K duplex in Miami-Dade, the best rents, let's say around $5,200. That means that the returns on this property, just as is, are going to be around 8.6%. Oh, but we don't know the taxes. Let's look at the taxes, guys. 7,217. So 7,217. That's going to improve the return. Yeah, awesome. So that actually improves the return a whole lot because taxes are not going to be as much. Although when you do buy for this price, you might have to see a price increase, okay, in your taxes. Let's go here and let's go and look at the rents. I think that's the max that you could get. Now, what is a price decrease that is reasonable here? I think if you offered this guy 625, you know, you brought it down basically 70 grand. Yeah, he might take it. So, yeah. So 74 grand, right? So if you drop 74 grand, what happens to your actual return? Okay. And it jumps up to 14.5%. Up to 14.7 actually. 14.7 if you're able to buy this using FHA. All right, and you're able to get $5,200 a month in rent here. And he is distressed, so he wants to sell this quickly. So he might just take you up on that offer, and you might end up with a property that's a solid B. Okay. All right, cool. First deal, and yeah, not bad. Let's go ahead, get rid of this one. Let's keep looking. Okay, next up is 749,749 duplex in Miami-Dade. Currently paying in taxes $6,495 a year. Okay, square feet wise, 1,743 square feet. He's saying that they are getting $3 a month in rent. I doubt it, but it's flood zone X. Let's look at the quality of the property, see what kind of product we're dealing with. Okay, so it requires cleanup. Hopefully when they sell, they take all their stuff with them. It looks like they've been taking things from like pool parties in Miami. Interesting. Okay, so according to them, this is a duplex. Let's see how much they want for it. And let's make sure this is actually a duplex. Looks like a single family home. No, it's legit. It's a duplex. It's a duplex. 2 units, total of 6 bedrooms and 3 baths. So maybe even 2 3-2s. Dare I say? No, it's a 3-1, a 1-1, and a 1-1. Interesting. Multifamily with high potential in Apalaca. This property features 3 units that can produce a great return. All right, so sewer line has been 3 houses down. I don't know what that means. And they're willing to do owner financing, guys. All right, cool. So it's a 3-1. Now, what do average? They don't tell us how much you're collecting in rents here. So a 3-1 on average go for $2,700. We're in Miami-Dade, right? So Apalaca. Then 2-1-1, $1,600 and $1,600. And that means that this property might be able to collect. I think that this is a little bit below, I would say like a mid property, just because of the quality of the property on the inside and around. You know, this one looks okay. Try not to look at the furniture, just try to look at the finishes. Yeah. I mean, if you clean this up and paint, it'll be a different world. I'm sure that they're not, or they might not be counting this as part of the, I don't know. This is really interesting. Yeah, just very interesting. I'm gonna give them a little bit less than the median. I think that the quality is not quite mid. Okay, I think it's probably a little bit less than that. So $2,500 for the 3-1. I think for the 1-1, it's maybe like $1,500 a piece. Okay, so now you're talking that your returns or your actual rent here is going to be $5,500. All right, that means that the property as is making returns of 11.9%. As good as 11.9%. Okay. Now the question is, how much can you bring the price down on this property, right? And I think, yeah, bringing this price down to like 675, right? So basically like 75K, 74K. 675 can make this deal a little bit sweeter. And yeah, look, 135% on the DSCR, right? If you could actually get these rents, guys, and if you could get these rents, then you're looking at interest rate, or you're looking at return on investment over the life of the property as good as also 14.7%, right? That's again if you're collecting $5,500. Now this guy doesn't look like he's in some kind of tax distress, so I wouldn't say that he's pressed to sell it where he needs to sell like right away. But yeah, the property itself looks like it's in a bit of distress. Okay, maybe not the seller, but the property. Okay, next up, it's a $979,000 duplex, okay, in Broward County, currently paying $12,475 a year in taxes. Interest rates are at 6.3%. Square feet wise, 2,526 square feet. All right, let's see how much it's collecting in rents. It doesn't tell us, so let's take a look at the quality of the property so we can figure that out for ourselves. On the outside, the property looked nice. Yeah, actually really nice. On the inside, it looks mid. Okay, I would say this looks mid. I don't like that. I mean, they got to put some kind of door here, just extend this a little bit. You have space there. And be able to close that out so you don't see the washer dryer there. It just kills the vibe. The floors, I'm not feeling them. I don't know, the peacock comes with a house. Okay, so this is just a very mid product, okay? And let's see what it actually has for us. Let's look at the guts of this deal. Beautifully updated duplex featuring contemporary finishes throughout. So contemporary updates, okay. All right, it's 221s. They say that one of the 2 1s is renting for $2,500 and the other one is renting for $4,000. Yeah, I don't buy that, okay. So they're in Fort Lauderdale, they're in Broward County. 2 1s on median in Broward County rent out for about $2,000, $1,960 as a matter of fact. And they're saying that they're getting $2,500 for one and $40,000 for the other one. I just, unfortunately, I don't believe that, okay? I think that the most you can maybe get for this kind of property is gonna be around the mids. It's gonna be around $2,000. Let's give them a benefit of the doubt and say that this property could actually collect $2,100 for each one of the 2 1s. Then that means that this property at most collects $4,200 and they want $979 for it. Right? And if it just collects $4,200, guys, where's this on the 1% rule? It's not even half of the 1% rule. It's 0.43 on the 1% rule. This property would leave you almost like it wouldn't create any wealth for you. It would actually kill your wealth. Look at that. All right. This is a zero line right here. It would be killing your wealth. Even if you put 25% down payment, you know, it would just like this property, even with appreciation and tax benefits, it would kill your wealth every single year. If it could only collect this amount of rent and you bought it at this purchase price. The returns here, okay, over the life of the entire property for you is at best is going to be when you buy cash because you're not going to have that interest payment and it's only going to be 4.6%, okay, less than half of the S&P. So no reason to do this. I think that, you know, at best, this guy, you know, charging so much for this house, you might see maybe, let's say, 100,000 price decrease down to 879. But even if you saw a $100,000 price decrease, guys, the best return this property could actually achieve is 4.9%, right? And so for that reason, this house is pretty much the worst one we've seen so far today. Not this year, but definitely today. All right, this next one has a pool, and I feel like we've seen it before. I feel like we've seen this property before. But let's check it out in any case. Let's look at the property history because we've seen it before. Let's see. Active in July, decrease, 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 decrease. All right. And then no, it's basically new right now. Okay, so let's take a look at the property itself. It's in Broward County, okay? And how much do they want for it, guys? Let's see here. They want they want $1 million, $1.03 million. And it's, let's say it's a triplex in Broward. They don't tell us how much it's collecting in rent, but they do tell us it's 2,681 square feet. So it's on the bigger side. Okay, let's take a look at the quality of the product. Okay, so it's dated. Okay, it's quite dated. And it's filled with stuff. Okay. So you're definitely gonna have to like do a bit of remodeling here on the inside. Let's look at the let's look at the guts of this deal. Well-maintained triplex offers immediate income. Da 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 da. All right, who will be the judges of that? They are saying that they're collecting $2,600. They could collect $2,600 a month on the 3-2. They're saying that they could collect $1,950 on the 1-bedroom, 2-bath apparently, and then on a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, they're able to collect $1,850. Okay, that's $6,400. Now, that's interesting. A 1-2. You usually don't see that. Let's look at the folio numbers, see what we could figure out here. It doesn't look like he's in tax problems. 6 bedrooms, 1 and 5.5 bathrooms. Okay, so if you get a 3-2, you're left with 3, 2.5, or 3. Let's see, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So you're left with 3, 3.5. So that means that you could have another 1-1, and now you're left with 2, 1.5. Or no, 2, 2.5. Yeah, so maybe it's a 2-2. Yeah, maybe it's a 2-2 and then a 1, 1.5. Right? Let's see, 6, and then there's 5 here. 6, 5.5. Yeah, that's why he's putting 2, because this is 5. I don't know where the other half is. Maybe it's a 2, 1.5, and then this is a 1, 1.5. I don't know how this guy wrote it. But if that's the case, guys, you might be able to, if you could just update a little bit, you might be able to get a better rent on this, because right now at the price that they want it, right, they want 1.03. It's just not going to make a lot of sense. And let me show you guys. Right, this is the property, 1029. Currently paying $15,520. Oops, 15,520 a year in taxes. All right, and we're saying that that's the max rent that, or he's saying that that's the rent that they could get for this property, right? Let's do a little rent check here. The 3-1, $2,600 in Miami-Dade. 3-1, that's around right. That's correct. A 2-1, they're saying that they're collecting $1,850. You know, you could collect as much as $2,300. And then they're saying that the 1-2 is collecting $1,950. And maybe that's accurate too. So, yeah, that's interesting. It's got the whole pool vibe too. Now, here's the deal. At $6,400 a month, this property's return on investment is going to be a 6.8%. That's not very good. I mean, that's like almost half of the S&P, and we're not in for those kind of games. But if you could increase these rents to what the median is for a 3-2, okay, a 3-2 could rent for $3,000, okay, a 2-1, right, because it has a 2-1 as well, could go up to $2,300. And then it says that it has a 1-2, which might be a 1, 1.5, right? And if that's the case, let's say it gets $1,700 there. Let's say we get $1,700 here. Now we're up to $7,000 a month, okay? Could we work on this purchase price a little bit? Maybe we could get this guy down $100,000, right? So down to like seven, let me see, $100,000. We're down to like a 925 offer, right? So 75 plus 30, 105. Oh. So let's do 930. Let's just do 100. Yeah, 100. Straight 100. Yep. A straight $100,000 decrease, all right, which is about 10%. He's not in any kind of distress. And if you're able to increase the rent and drop the price 100K, what's the best return this property could give you? 9.3%. So you would need to do all this work, right, to kind of fix up those units on the inside and negotiate $100,000 off. But even if you did that, guys, this property could only give you 10%, or sorry, less than 10% returns. So going through all that work just to end up with what you could do with the S&P, and you could start making that money tomorrow. And this is over the life of the property, let alone the first years. The first years, you're going to make way less than that. So it's not worth it for me. I would go ahead and I would discard this property. Okay, down to the last six. All right, this one's a $1.249 million duplex in Miami-Dade, paying $15,456 a year in taxes. Square feet wise, 3,429. That's a good size. Now they're saying that they're collecting $8,150 a month in rent, which is not bad. Flood zone X, which is what we like. Let's look at the pictures and let's put this information down real quick. They want 1.25 million. And they said that it was a duplex in Miami-Dade, and they're saying that they're collecting $8,150 a month in rents. Yeah. Okay. Well, what does the property look like? Let's see. All right, on the inside, it looks okay. It looks very mid. Okay. Yeah, very, very mid. All right, and if they are actually collecting that, that means that the return on investment here at best is going to be 8% on the nose. Okay, now let's look at the guts of this deal, see if we could figure something else out about this property. Available for showings, savvy investors understand the value of the location in an opportunity zone, positive NOI, This two-story duplex valued as a fourplex featuring 2 units, top and bottom, plus a grandfathered in separate building structure in the back that has 2 separate apartments. A rare find that is a must-see to appreciate. All right, so they say that it's a 3-2, a 3-2, a 1-1, and a 1-1, okay? That the 3-2 is making $3,350, that the other 3-2 is making $2,300, all right? And then that the 1-1 is making $1,300, and that the other 1-1 is making $1,200. And that's how they got to $8,100. Now, if this is real, if these units are that big, right? $1,300 square feet, 1,153 square feet, right? And it is in Miami-Dade, could we get a little bit more for the rents, right? Could we actually increase rents here if we clean the place up, make it look a little bit better, right? So a 3-2, they're saying that they're getting $3,350. You know, the median is $3,000, so that might be correct. The other one, they're getting $2,300. So they might want to increase that price there, right? So I would say that more than likely, right? So this total would be like $5,550. I would just feel more comfortable being like, hey, you could probably rent both these out at $3,000, which is the median, because this property does look very mid, okay? And give them that benefit of the doubt. Now the 1-1, right? They're saying that they're getting $1,300 and $1,200, but they're less than 600 square feet, guys. So I would say that's probably right around the same time, or right around where it's probably at. Let's say you could get $1,400 for these. Let's say that he's under renting everything a little bit. So that means that the best return or the best rents here are going to be really $8,850 instead of $8,150. That would bring your returns up to 9.3%, right? From 8. Now, how much can we negotiate the price off? I think that negotiating 100 $120,000 off this purchase price would be easy. And then you would end up at 129, right? And if you end up $120,000 less, what does a return look like? Now, 120% DSCR is not bad, right? So the rents, that means that the rents here are paying 120% of the mortgage if you use a 25% down payment loan. But you can see here, guys, the best return at that point is going to be an 11% return. An 11% return, and for that, I guess, I would also just invest in the S&P, because at first you're not going to be making 11%. This is 11% over the life of the property, over 30 years. So for that reason, this property doesn't make sense for me. I would discard it. Okay, here we go. We are down to this fourplex in Miami-Dade. It is selling for $1.095 million. They're currently paying $11,703 a year in taxes. Square feet, 3,094 square feet. It's a big one. All right, square feet, or total rent, they're saying that they're only collecting $2,200 a month in rent. Okay, that doesn't make it look very good. You can see the returns here are negative. Okay, now let's take a look at the quality of the property. It looks really nice. It's very nice. It looks like it's got more than just 4 units here. Let's look at the insides. Okay, very mid insides, nothing to write home about at all. Yeah, at all. So it's okay. The outside actually looks better than the inside here. Let's look at the guts of the deal, see what we could figure out. Property is made up of an efficiently laid out 2-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom units at 774 square foot each and completely renovated in 2025. But they don't tell us how many units it has. Okay, here they tell us 4 units. They say it's got 4 units, guys. And that the 4 units are 2 ones, and that each one rents out for $2,200. So that means that the rents here could actually be, according to them, $880,000. If that's the case, this deal is not looking bad, right? Now let's rent check these guys, because they said they're renting their 2 ones out for $2,200, and they say that they are in Florida City, which is Miami-Dade. Okay. Well, the median rents for a 2-1 in Miami-Dade are $2,300. So I would say, yeah, this checks off. You could probably get these kinds of rents. And if you get these rents, you're making $8,800 a month. And if you're doing that at basically 1.1 mil, 8,800 would give you a return on investment, guys, of 13.3%, which isn't much to sneeze at, right? It's not terrible, because if you consider that we could maybe drop $100,000 on the price and offer this guy $995, right? If we could take $100K off, then that means that our returns could go up to 17%. And that's keeping the rents the same, because if you were to increase the rents, it would go up even more. So 17% over the life of the property, if you could, achieve those rents and then just increase as the years go by the average, all right? And that would clearly beat the S&P, right? You could make as good as almost double the returns that the S&P makes over 30 years. And that could be a potentially great investment. But of course, with these properties, you want to make sure that you do a market study of the rents, that you go see them in person. Don't just take my advice. This is kind of like the guideline. When I look for properties, this is exactly what I do. I rate them, and then I go see the best ones, and then I go see the ones after that, if I still don't find a really, really good deal, right? And again, I'm looking for it to be like in 20%. I want to make Warren Buffett money. And just so you know, Warren Buffett over his life has basically made 20% returns on his investments. So if I could do that, if I could match old Warren, like I'm a happy camper, all right? So for that being said, so far, that's the best property today. All right, now there's 4 more, so let's take a look at those. Okay, this looks like a very much commercial multifamily. Yeah, current cap rate, 27 unit multifamily in the heart of Little Havana. All right, let's just for shits and giggles analyze this really quick. All right, 27 units, strong and stable. Let's see, renovations. All units currently under contract. Most leases renewed through 2027. Current NOI is $541,000 a year. So, no, let's just put it here. Equals equals 541 divided by 12. That's how much you're getting per that's how much you're getting per month in rent. But how much do they want for the property? 8.8 million. All right, and how much are they paying for in taxes? All right, they're paying Uncle Sam 7391. Here we go. 7391. Square feet, yeah, 25,899. Sorry, 25,899. Okay. Well, guys, that's less. That's half of the 1% rule. Okay, so that for me is just a no-go. Right? This property, even if you put down 25% to buy this property, it wouldn't even pay for its own mortgage. Okay. Yeah, and did they say that it's a 6 cap? Pretty much, yeah. But that's not counting. That's their net operating income. Okay. So barely, but I mean, for me, this doesn't make sense. But the way that you actually do financing for multifamily, maybe you could actually improve this property, increase rents, and now make it a little bit more worthwhile. But guys, it's a red flag when the property can't even do, right? This property should be collecting around $80,000 a month. Or close to it, maybe like $70,000 a month, and it might be worth taking a look at. That's the reason that it's on the MLS, because nobody wants to buy it. Otherwise, this property would be gobbled up in a heartbeat. So let's go ahead and discard this property. We're not even going to put it in our list just because it's not where normal folks could start. And that's the purpose of this channel, guys. Get you started in investing, right? Like, I'm not speaking bad about Grant Cardone at all. The guy's awesome. But if you're going to get into investing in properties, you should know what you're doing. And the only way that you know what you're doing is by starting off, I think, a little small, maybe like a 4 unit, a 3 unit, a 2 unit. There's another like guy that's a billionaire. His name is Bobby Castro. And he made a lot of money. I think he made like close to like $1 billion or something like that. And then when he did that, he went out and he bought these large multifamilies. And he ended up losing a lot of freaking money. A lot of freaking money. Why? Because he didn't know what he was doing. He was just relying on the experience of a lot of people, telling them how to run the properties, and he lost all this money. And what he realized is like, hey, no, there's money to be had here. I just did it wrong. So he changed his approach, right? Which is what Tony Robbins says, right? Just change your approach. And so he did that. And the first thing he bought was a single family home, and he rented that out. Then he was like, all right, I got that. So he rented out a duplex, and then a triplex, and then a fourplex, and then a fiveplex. And then he just, at that point, he started kind of like growing a little bit more, like skipping a couple numbers. But that's kind of how he did it. And I think that's not a bad way to do it. Grant, if you look at Grant Cardone, he also started that way. He started renting out single family homes. Now today he'll tell you like, I would just jumped all that stuff, right? But he says that with the experience that he has, right? I think if you had to put him back in his like 20 or 30-year-old body with all his experience, then he would jump all that. I don't think that it's realistic for somebody to jump all that without doing all this kind of stuff. Dealing with tenants, because otherwise you're just going to be overwhelmed. And then you might be advised by people that don't know as much as you. So with that being said, guys, we're down to our last 3. Let's take a look at this one. This one is a duplex in Miami-Dade. It's selling for $674,000. All right. Currently, you're paying $9,613 a year in taxes. Interest rates, right, are 6.3. Square feet wise, 2,010 square feet. Now the rents are, he's saying that they're collecting $44.25 in rents. Okay. And that basically, if we buy it at that price, would pay would basically pay the mortgage, but that's about it. Okay. If you look at the property here, the quality of it, the roof looks okay. The back is kind of paved. On the inside, it's very, very much mid kind of property. Like, yeah. Just nothing crazy. Just very average. Man, they don't make their beds. Yep. Very, very average. Okay, let's look at the guts of this. Fully stabilized 2005 duplex and fast growing pocket around I-95. All right, so they say it's a 3-2 making $2,600. And then they have a 2-2 making $1,825. Now let's rent check these, make sure that they're accurate. So we are in Miami-Dade. Okay, we're in Miami-Dade. I would say that this property is below mid, okay? And they say that the 3-2 is renting for $2,600. I would say that that's probably right, because they're saying here that the mid, or we're saying is $3,000. And they say that a 2-2 rents out for $1,825. I would say that that's accurate as well. Now, if you could come in here and just fix it up a little bit, right? Maybe put a nice like white fence here. Make it feel a little bit more like pressure clean that driveway. You might be able to drive rents up a bit, right? I think that the market could allow for that. But currently he's not taking advantage of that. So that being said, the return that this property could give you right now, as is for this $674,000 duplex in Miami-Dade, collecting $4,425 a month, is only going to be 7.3%. Now, if you're able to increase this to the medians in Miami-Dade, right, which for a 3-2 again would be $3K, and for a 2-2 would be maybe like $2,400 at least, then you're up to $5,400. And if you could negotiate some kind of like, let's say like $60,000 off this purchase price, so now you end up like at 614. Whoops. By the way, is this guy in any kind of distress? Has he paid his taxes? Let's see. Yeah. Well, if you could at least negotiate basically a little bit like less than 10% off, right? And increase those rents, then this property could give you returns as good as 13.5%. Which is not amazing, but you know, it's definitely better than the S&P. So this could be a potentially good property for an initial investor, although it's probably not in the best area, just based on the quality of the property, what I saw on the outside, the way that the fence is set up, right? Like usually like nicer properties, they'll have like, you know, the white plastic fence or at least a wood fence. That chain link fence is just, man, I don't like those, right? Look at the bars here, like, you know, put cameras, put something, make it feel a little bit, you know, safer for the tenants. And then you can get more rent. But I mean, they don't even bother putting mulch here, right? So you could possibly increase these rents just by sprucing up the outside of the property here. But they don't do that, and that's okay, because that could be where you could come in here and manage it better, operate it better, and then you get compensated for that in terms of better rents and better returns. So not a terrible property, but not the best. Let's go ahead, let's keep looking. We're down to the last two properties. All right, this one is a $699,000 duplex in Broward County. They're currently paying $12,007 a year in taxes. Square feet wise, 2,415 square feet. Now they are collecting $4,000 a month in rent. Okay, flood zone X and pictures. All right, let's look at the pictures here. Property's pretty. This property is really pretty. Neighborhood looks nice. Roof looks a little bit older, definitely old. All right, but tile roof. Is that carpet? Oh my God, that's carpet. It's terrible. So this is a good opportunity, guys, because this property you could actually, I mean, it already it has really good bones. You know, you could get rid of maybe even these speed bumps, like put something that's nicer, or I don't know. You could definitely put a border here. You could make this like real grass. I like that they put mulch here, but you could just make this property look better. And by doing that, you could probably get even more rents. Now let's take a look at how much they're collecting in rents themselves, right? So again, we're in Broward County, Coral Springs, not a bad area. For sale, this duplex of 2 units, 1 bath could easily be converted to 3 bedrooms that could be converted to 3-1 for more upside income potential. The rented and 1 for more baths for more upside income apartments currently rented and 1 is month to month. Both units include impact windows, sprinkler system, and parking spaces. Both units have laundry room in each and central AC unit, I'm sure. Man, he put that information in quick, boy. All right, 2-2-1s, right? In Coral Springs. So a 2-1 could rent out on average $1960, and he's saying that he's collecting $4,000. So that passes the rent check. Now, I think that given the property, right, you might be able to collect a little bit more here, especially if you're saying that it's a 3-1, you might be able to collect as much as $2,100, which means that you might be able to come in here and collect $4,200, right? But even if you added those extra $200 a month in rent, the returns are just not there. So as pretty as this property is, right, and the price is not terrible, $699 for this duplex in Broward, that could right now is only collecting $4,000, or that we think that it could collect $4,000. That return on investment is just going to be a paltry 5.8%, right? And if we could increase the rents here, right, then that's all that could get you. Now, here's the crazy part, right? It's a big property, 2,400 square feet. Dude, if we can make these 3-2s, turn these into 3-2s somehow, right? Maybe he says that there's enough space to put an additional bedroom. Well, what if you grab that where that laundry is, and you have, right, connections, hot water, cold water, and sewer connections, and turn that into a bathroom, and now you turn that whatever space he's talking about into an extra bedroom, and now you have a 3-2. If you could actually do that, right, if that's something that's feasible, when you walk in there and you see it, then that means that you could maybe come in here and collect $2,700 per unit instead of what it currently is. But even if you did that, that's crazy. I thought that might make it work. But even if you collected the $2,700 a month, all right, and you collected a total of $5,400, and this is with a 2-1 to 3-2 conversion, right? And let's see if you drop the price. If you drop the price here, 10%, so like you end up like at, again, 625, right? So 74K. If you drop the price 74K, 625, right? The best returns this property could give you is just an 11.3%. And you're gonna have to do a lot of work, right? You're still gonna have to like renovate the bathroom, kind of like change the layout. So for all that work and to just get back 11.3% returns, this property, as pretty as it could be, is just not worth it for us. Now, this is the last property that we have today, guys. It's a $1.58 million fourplex, all right? This fourplex is in Miami-Dade. Currently, they're paying $18,555 a year in taxes, and they're saying that they're only collecting $4,900 a month in rents, which is terrible. Flood zone AE, you're gonna pay extra in rents as well, all right? Right off the bat, like it looks like it might be virtually staged, but even if it's not, guys, look at that box AC over here. Look at this weird colored kitchen. And yeah, this is virtually staged. Okay, box ACs everywhere. This looks like it's probably in Miami Beach. And this just looks like a mid Miami Beach kind of stuff, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 different meters. And yeah, it's right off the water there. So that's why it's in an elevated flood risk property. So you're going to pay more in flood insurance here. Let's look at the guts of this deal, see what we could figure out. So it's actually 6 units. 6 units. That's why we saw so many meters. This isn't a real residential multifamily. This is a commercial multifamily. Okay. Every unit, new electrical systems, hot water heater. Okay, so it appears to be 6 1-1s. All right, and they're saying that they have 1-1s rented for $1,700 all the way to $1,500. So let's say it's a total of 6, and 2 of them rent for $1,700. That's $3,400. The other one rents for $1,650. Let's say they have 2 of those. That's $3,300. And let's say they have another one, and that rents for they have another 2, and those rent for $1,550. Right, and I'm getting these numbers right from their information, right? And that means that would be $3,100. That means that the best that this property could collect is $9,800 a month, and they want $1.6 million for it. Well, unfortunately, that's not even 0.6%, right? A 0.6%. We're looking for 1%, just for 1% of the purchase price per month. And this does at best 0.62, which is definitely below at least my minimum threshold of 0.7 to look at it. The property itself would barely pay for the mortgage, and it would barely pay. It would be so little of the mortgage that the banks wouldn't consider it a risk and not give you a DSCR loan on this, right? And so I think that that's probably the most that you could get for this property. But again, this is a commercial multifamily, so we're not really going to analyze this property. We're looking at any kind of property that's 4 units and less, because apart from that, then just the financing works completely different for commercial. So with that being said, guys, those were the properties for today. There were actually only just 11. 2 of them were commercial multifamilies. Hopefully, or actually, we had a pretty good deal today. We had a deal that could do up to 17% and was doing 13.3% by itself without touching it, right? As long as they were saying the truth about how much they were collecting in rents. So with that being said, guys, it's it for today. Hope that you guys learned something. Hope that I provided you some value, and have a great night.